Joe, that's watching you play guitar, man, is like putting on a new pair of Gucci shoes, brother. Not that I've ever worn Gucci shoes, but I got a feeling that's what it feels like. Here we are on the Monster Energy stage in the Bing Lounge. Joe Satriani just put on a blazing performance. Now we're going to talk to Joe for a minute. I appreciate you hanging out, Joe, and
Sure.
letting us get to know you a little bit, man.
Yeah.
You talked about the clinics. You said that word, and I'm reading the book now by Keith Richards, called Life. And he talks about in the early days how influenced he was by, the Chuck Berry sound and stuff like that, and Elvis. And I believe it was Elvis's guitar player that he played a lick on a song. And when Keith said, I've met him and I've played with him, and I asked him, how do I get that sound of that lick? And the guy would never tell him. And he said every time he ran into him, he'd say, "You figured that lick out yet?" And Keith would be like, "No, mate, I can't figure it out." How giving are you in sharing your secrets with your students?
Oh, everything. Yeah. I grew up in a different age, and certainly now there is no privacy, as you can tell.
Or as Keith would say, privacy.
And so, yeah, whatever you come up with, everybody in the world knows about it within 24 hours. And so there's no need for any of that kind of stuff. I think that the shift is on originality that comes through the music, not so much the mechanical part of it. Everyone can sort of learn that now. So when I was giving lessons, I kind of started out with where my high school music teacher sort of brought me to, that level, which was he taught us everything, even though he was a classical piano player and we were just total Black Sabbath playing, long hairs.
Long curly hairs.
Yes, and he made sure that, that he could reach us somehow with what was real about music. And so with my students, I did the same thing. And, my real job was playing in a rock and roll band, but during the day, I taught students, and so when they came in and they wanted to be great guitar players, I just showed them everything that I knew. I didn't think there was really any other way to do it. So, yeah. What do you need to know? I'll tell you right now. Anything you need to know.
I'm not a guitar player, man. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm missing out. But I have sung in a couple bands.
Oh, there you go. You could teach me how to sing because I can't sing.
But that doesn't diminish my love for the guitar. And I have to say that my all-time favorite guitar player is Jeff Beck, and I want to know how much of an influence he has been on your playing, because there's definitely some of a similarity in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. I started out because of Hendrix. I was a complete Hendrix nut, even though I studied drums for 2 years, starting at the age of 9, and so I thought, that was the beginning of me thinking I was going to be a musician. But I was really getting into the music of my older siblings, and they brought all the music from the 50s and the 60s and sort of dumped it on me as they were all leaving the house. And part of that was Hendrix and Page and Beck and Clapton and that whole group, third generation electric blues players. So, yeah. And Beck laid the way for those instrumental records that were not jazz. They were not pop. They were rock records.
Well, they needed to put a label on it, and they called it fusion.
That's right, yeah. But, it really wasn't in a way. I mean, it because that kind of locks it into one thing, and Jeff Beck cannot be contained,
You've played with everyone. You've mentored a lot of prominent guitarists. You even played on a tour with Mick Jagger. Was that 94?
No, it was way early.
84?
88.
88, okay. Yeah. What tour or what year stands out more than any other in your mind, in your memory, as being maybe the happiest that you've ever been?
Wow, happy. See, I thought you were going to say something else, but happy, that's a good one.
Well, I mean, that's really the most important aspect of it all, isn't it?
I tell you, that it's hard for me to think about that, and because it's, a year is a long period of time. And
or a tour.
And so many things happen,
Could be a show.
A show or something like that. But that year you mentioned, 88 playing with Jagger, that was such an incredible change of events for me, because going at the very beginning of the year, I started on my very first tour as a solo artist, and I didn't know how to do that at all. I would have been so nervous to do this, to stand up in front of an audience and talk, because I was used to standing back there behind someone like you, the singer, being the front guy, right? And I had no experience playing music for people where nobody sang at all, let alone me being up at the front of the mic. And although Surfing with the Alien was starting to hit the charts and it was gaining popularity, it really wasn't big. I had no credibility in the live market. So we had this short little tour, 3-week tour. We were playing 2 shows a night in these very little clubs. I was destined to lose about $8,000 a week, which I didn't have. And I'm thinking, this whole solo thing is like not working out at all, you know? So I don't know where this is going. And within 3 weeks, all of a sudden, I'm in Mick Jagger's band. That came out of the blue, right? I don't have to worry about that tour losing all that money, because luckily I could cancel the rest of the tour. I'm being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. There's an article in Rolling Stone about me, and the record is going up and up and up the charts. It's moving and moving, and it winds up staying up there forever. And by the time I got home in November, I was almost like a completely different person, because of the experience of having to become that solo artist that people expected, because they bought the record. And I thought, well, listen, Surfing with the Alien, this guy's got to be doing something. They had no idea that I was completely unprepared. You know, I didn't know how to do a show. I really didn't know how many songs you play and then you stop and you talk. Didn't know what gear to bring or anything like that, you know. And then during the off period, I was playing with Mick Jagger, which was this red carpet all the way. I mean, that was a style of living and playing that I only read about. And the good thing about it was that it was fun, it was musically challenging, and Mick and everybody else in the organization, they were fantastic, which was a great surprise to find out that it wasn't horrible up there at the top, that guys like Mick Jagger could be fun to hang out with, generous on stage, generous off stage, interesting. And so by the time that year was over, yeah, it was like, wow.
And I'm sure those older siblings looked at you a little differently after that.
Oh, yeah.
You're playing with Mick Jagger. All right, let's talk about the present. And just after this last question that I have, I'm going to offer the opportunity for all you people out there to ask Joe a couple questions of your own. You played for a millisecond with a brother in our audience here, Dean Castronova.
That's right. Dean,
could you stand up for a sec? Just tell everybody hello. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah. No doubt, right? Dean is currently the drummer for Journey. I don't know if anybody knew that or not. I believe, did you play with Ozzy?
I knew that. I actually knew that.
Dean, did you play with Ozzy too?
What do I get?
Okay. Dean is an extremely accomplished drummer and vocalist as well. And for a millisecond, he played in a band called Planet Us with Joe, as the band was put together by Sammy. And Neil Sean was in the band as well. And you guys came together. You did one show on Rockline, but you never played a single gig.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't play one, right, without me? I don't. I mean, first of all, we have to explain. First of all, to know Sammy Hagar is quite an experience, because he's not like a normal person. He's like a tornado that kind of, comes into your life from time to time. And it's a lot of fun, but, stuff is flying around all the time. So he showed up while I was recording a record at the plant in Sausalito in California one afternoon with cases of tequila and Neil Sean, screaming about the new band, and I had to be in the band, and whatever I was doing, and I was doing a record, just forget about that, because let's go and do this thing. And I finally talked them out of the studio and said, I really should finish doing this record, and then I can go do this other thing. So they said, well, we'll keep going without you, and then you just come, maybe when you leave the studio, come to our studio. And of course, I never did that. That was crazy, right? Because I was putting in 12-hour days anyway. So you guys did record a couple of songs, right? Yeah. And right, and I never heard them until I got to the studio to do the Rockline show. Yeah. So, but this is I know this seems really weird, but this is typical when there's Sammy Hagar involved because it's just the way, it's just like this raw energy. So we did this radio show. It was a lot of fun. It was really great. I could barely hear Neil because he was on the other side of the studio and our amps were in booths, so it wasn't like a regular live kind of a show. And then what happened after that? We did the show. Everything was great. And then you went on the road. Sammy went on the road. And then oh, that's right. Okay. That little thing, that other little band. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised that Sammy invited you into a band because out of all the musicians that I've met in my career of 18 years in radio, he is indeed probably the nicest, most genuine guy in the industry. And I'd have to say that you're a very close second as well. And I'm not surprised that he gravitated towards you to want to be in a band. And of course, as the years progressed, indeed, you guys did end up in a legitimate band, and that band is called Chicken Foot.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
So.
Thanks.
Just share with me, what it was like for you guys to, to get to remove yourself from the solo arena, back into the dynamic of having Chad as your drummer, Michael on bass, you on guitar, and Sammy as a lead man. What was that like playing with those guys?
Well, as crazy as you can imagine, because if you know Chad, and you do know Chad, so we visited you.
Yeah, I've met Chad a couple times. Real soft-spoken, kind, funny guy that looks like Will Ferrell.
Yeah. But he's right up there with Sam as being high energy, unpredictable, off stage as well as when he's sitting on the kit.
Well, he's a chili pepper, man.
He's a chili pepper, yeah. But he's what surprised me was how much of a rock drummer he was, more so than what comes across on the Chili Pepper records. And, every measure is a surprise. Let me put it that way, musically speaking. So you do have to pay attention. He's not one of those stream of consciousness kind of musicians, He's always looking to do something, short attention span, kind of syndrome. He's always, making it very, very exciting. He comes off stage every night bleeding from several places. I don't know how he does it. Falls off his kit, destroys his kit. That's the kind of normal thing. Does it in rehearsal as well. So that always makes that a lot of fun.
Like Animal from the Muppets.
Exactly, yeah. But, we did that. We did like a little celebrity jam at one of Sammy's shows in Vegas. I guess it was Super Bowl weekend a couple of years ago. And we just thought it was for fun. Everyone just flew in to have some tequila and play with Sammy for a bit. But it was really so much better. Something really, sparkled when we played a couple of those Led Zeppelin songs. And we decided to see if it happened when we were just alone together in a room, just trying to write something original. And what came out, which was the most surprising thing, is that everybody, when we played together, we didn't sound like it was Joe doing his thing and Sammy doing his thing and a little bit of the Chili Peppers and Van Halen coming from the rhythm section. Suddenly what came out was all of these roots that we had in classic rock that maybe weren't coming out so much in other bands. And that surprised us, and we liked it. So we thought, why don't we just do that? And let's make our own record. Let's not have a record label. Let's just see how far we go on our own and if we still like it. And it just got better and better. So the experience is always fun. You never know what's going to happen. It is a little crazy. There is no transition for me because it feels to me just like I was 14 and playing at my high school dance, because that's the kind of band I was in right from the start. Yeah. My singer wasn't as good as Sammy, but I wasn't as good as anybody back then.
Who's got a question for Joe Satriani? Anybody? My brother? What do you got, bro?
Hi, Steve.
Big fan, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing this. This is great. Thank you, guys. I wanted to ask you if you've ever had any repetitive motion injuries as a result of playing, and if so, how did you treat that?
Steve wants to know if Joe's experienced any repetitive motion injuries from playing and how he's dealt with it.
The ones that plague me the most are the ones that are not playing related. If I'm just like thrashing my head around, I shouldn't do that.
Gig
I'm
neck.
Too old for that. Gig neck, you know what I mean? Get all excited at the beginning of a tour and it's like, oh man, seriously, I've been playing for so long that things do start to wear down a little bit, and it's my gig has gotten more intense instead of less intense, And so now we do a 2.5-hour show. A couple of years ago, we were doing 3-hour plus show, and I'm doing all the melodies and the solos. Not something that I thought I'd be doing, years ago. I thought I'd be doing a 90-minute set, But so what I found is that, there's tension in the forearm that I have to work around. And the injuries that I get to the fingers are always related to something else leading up to the tour. And it's almost comical in the way. Like 2 weeks before rehearsals, I'm starting to work on my gear, so I'm moving heads around my studio and stuff, and I wind up hurting a tendon picking up, 75-pound Marshall heads, And then I've got that to deal with for 4 months, And that happened right before this tour back in September. And so those are things that happen more often is outside of playing. There are just the everyday injuries that somehow relate to the playing. So I have to be careful about that. I'm telling myself right now, I should be more careful about that and not, like when I have a show day, I shouldn't be doing this.
You become your own mother.
That's right, yeah. Don't
Who
pick
else
up
got
anything with
a
this
question
thing,
for Joe in the back?
Hey Joe, what do you like to do for fun besides play guitar? Like maybe like Ted Nugent, 4-buying or hunting or anything like that? We got some great wheeling up here in Washougal.
That's what I hear about that, yeah. It seems like I'm always writing music. The last few years, especially with the Chickenfoot band that popped out, that was such a surprise. I'm like, every time I've got some time off, I'm in my studio writing music, and I do really love it. So I don't really have too many other things that I do. And as it relates to repetitive stress and things like that, I've given up skiing and snowboarding and other dangerous things in these last, couple of decades where I figure I really should be careful, After, living the crazy life for so many years, I was really lucky not to break my fingers or my wrist or my arm. But, eventually it gets all of us sooner or later, so.
I need to take your advice, dude. I've got whiplash as we speak in my neck from a serious wipeout from Sunday. We took Rehab with Ricker. That's the bus where we take up to the mountain, right? And we fill it full of gangsters that listen to the station. Rehab with Ricker 3 going on sale shortly. One last question. That other brother in the back that didn't get to ask it last time.
I was just wondering if we could see you jam on the prize guitar for a minute.
He's done playing, broski. Come on, man.
I'll plug it in because I haven't even seen. I don't even know if it's in tune.
You
Is
want
it
to plug it
tune?
in? Yeah, go for it, bro. Good question, brother. Listen, this is the Monster Energy stage. Anyone who steps on this stage is going to have a lot of energy. So Joe is no exception. No strap.
Oh my God.
It's way out of tune.
This is so bad you have to hear it. I mean, it's just. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. Now, it is a really good guitar, but they didn't stipulate that we had to tune it. So it's they just said sign it, They make a lot of music like that, I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, once you start playing with your teeth, right? I think it works fine. All right.
Well, there you go. Whoever wins that guitar can say that Joe Satriani played it as well as signed it. That's
With my
going to do
teeth.
it, eh?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
that?
Sorry about that.
And he slobbered on it.
I didn't know. I'm
Yeah.
a very clean teeth player. I mean,
Priceless.
really.
You want to mark that
And
DNA?
plus,
just
it's
because
got these protective, things on it.
There
So
you go, brother.
I'll put that back on there. Get to pick up prophylactic
There
kind
you
of
go.
thing.
Right on.
Good as new. You use them over and over again.
Well, hey, listen, man, Joe, we want to thank you so much for coming out. Everybody make some noise for Joe Satriani.
Thank you.
If you want to see more of what you saw tonight at the Roseland Theater in downtown Portland, Joe Satriani, once again, thank you.